Hey friends, it's Spirit Tony Bunny here. This is a Deku tree inspired jewelry holder. So I was actually looking to create a jewelry holder. I wanted something Zelda inspired, and I thought how cool would it be to have the Deku tree be that jewelry holder. So honestly, this was a lot of trial and error. I think it came out fantastic though, and if you want to see how I created it, stay tuned. So things needed: bakeable clay, any sort of ceramic tools for your clay that you can work with, pin, knife, they sell those at your local craft store, paintbrushes, paints. I actually picked up these paints at Walmart, so just any sort of cheap paint that's acrylic, it'll work great after you're done baking your clay. I wanted a variety of colors, that way I could just detail the tree the way I wanted to. Paintbrushes, once again, cheap set from local craft store. Wide tip, small tip paintbrushes is really what I wanted, so I bought a pack. And then ceramic glue, wiring, and moss. So first things first, this Sculpey clay was, I think it was like $30. You want to make sure that the clay you're using is actually bakeable clay. And again, you can get this at your craft store, but you don't want to be working with any sort of other earthy type clay because that is not okay to put in your oven. That is for a kiln. So just look out for that. But right now I'm just going ahead and working with the clay, trying to smooth it out, get all the air bubbles out, so that way I can begin rolling with the pin. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll this out. This roller pin was something I've actually had already because, once again, I've done some pottery, so I've had this, but any sort of kitchen roller pin would work fine. So after flattening it all out, I am basically now cutting for the pieces of the base of the tree. Make sure that you obviously keep the base the same size, and also taller the better to some degree, just because you're going to have necklaces and stuff like that hanging off of it, so just keep that in mind. Yeah, this got a little messy, so I'm just taking my tool right now and just cleaning up the clay. This, if you're wondering, this clay is super easy to clean up, so even though there was some left over, I just took a sponge of a little bit of some water, damp it with some water, and clay came right off brand new, but I definitely wouldn't recommend doing this on a surface that is a good surface. So now I am creating the circle base of the bottom of the tree. This is what I'm going to use to connect now all 4 pillars of clay to and start creating the base. So that's basically what I'm doing right now. The taller, the only thing I have to say is that you just have to be cautious of the clay actually caving in. So just as you're working with it, just watch out for that. The more you're able to create stability at the bottom, the better. You can already see some of that clay was trying to cave in. If I would have gone back to redo that, I definitely would have massaged it more at the bottom into the actual circle base, just so try to create more stability. I did come back in here. As soon as you pinch some of this together and worked it, I was able to kind of fix that issue, but just watch out for that. So after all that, I am now creating the pieces for the eye and the mustache, and placing it now onto the base of the tree. So basically I am building the nose. I'm just taking pieces of clay, putting it on there, and then massaging it into the base. Don't worry about perfection. This is a tree. What's so cool about that is it actually looks like a carved nose into a tree, just the way the clay is. Again, trees have bark. It's not perfect, so if you're not great at smooth clay, it's actually a pretty fantastic thing. You don't have to worry about that with this. Right now I am building the branch that's going to go off the tree. That's actually going to be holding the jewelry. Just having an idea of how long I want it. If I was to go back, I would definitely add multiple branches and perhaps a bit shorter, just for better stability. So now I'm taking this metal piece. I wanted a thick metal piece that was really going to hold that sturdy because it's going to have to hold some weight. So right now, as you can see, I'm just kind of measuring for how deep I need to put it, because once I bake it closed, I need an opening that I can actually slide the metal piece into. So I'm hollowing it out and massaging the edges of the clay now. And this is kind of what it looks like before I am putting it into the oven. So now I'm just taking, make sure you are using, so I am using wax paper. And now I'm just basically going to start loading the tree and the tree branch on there. Something to keep in mind, which I almost forgot, is just adding the holes for the branch, because that is what you're going to clip the metal and put into. That's going to be your holders for the jewelry. So now I'm going to load it into the oven. Put the oven at 375, I believe it was. It'll tell you the instructions on the box. I left it in for 15 minutes just because of the thickness of the clay, and it came out perfect. Only thing is I noticed that the mustache actually fell off, which isn't bad. We have ceramic glue for a reason, so we can just reattach that. So, as you can see here, I actually had painted a base beforehand. It's kind of an orangey terracotta color, and to be honest with you, I wasn't the biggest fan, so I'm actually going to go ahead and change that to a lighter brown. But I think the lighting's perfect to kind of just highlight the fact that, as you can see with the clay, the fact that it's not perfect is great. It gives it some dimension, some texture on the tree. As you can see, even with the nose, it kind of looks like it's carved, which came out like great. Now I'm going in right now and just darkening the eyes and the mustache. So just as an additional little tip here, because I'm about to go ahead and start painting this brown. As you're painting, my best advice is, while it's still wet, that's when you go ahead and add any extra colors that you want. As you'll see here in a second, I start adding some darker tones just to kind of give it some dimension. Just a few streaks here and there, just as not the flat brown. But the best time to do that is definitely when it's still wet, because that way it just blends a lot better and it looks great. So as you can see, I'm painting now the branch. I also slid the piece of metal into the branch, so that way I can go ahead and clip it. So I clipped it to the base. The actual arm of the metal was actually a little bit longer in the trunk, just to hold more stability. Now I'm clipping pieces of metal, I'm gluing them, and then just sticking them into the slots that I created, and I'm letting it dry, and then moving on to the next one. So now I'm adding finishing touches to the Deku tree, just adding some Spanish moss to the top. I actually got two different colors, a lighter and a darker tone, and I'm also draping some a little over the branch because I just thought it would add some just extra fun and texture and leafy greens. And here's the final product. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you do decide to create one of your own, I would love to see it. And if you guys come up with any other great ideas on how to reinvent this a little bit better, whatever, I would love to hear those as well. But if you did enjoy this video, if you could, just give it a like and subscribe. I'll be making other crafty Nintendo things like this in the future, so do stick around for those if you like them, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.